Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast, and I am your host, Samuel. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire country. And it doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing to diagnostic lab, you name it. You will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 5% performer within your role in sales, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I am your host, Samuel. And today I am proud to introduce a very fascinating guest. He goes by the name of Jeff Smith. He is the CEO of Providence Medical. They're a medical technology company that provides solutions for the cervical spine space, so cervical spinal conditions. You know, what makes this interview, it's actually a two-part interview. What makes these interviews so interesting is because Jeff he doesn't have the typical career track. You know, he's a CEO of a medical technology company now, but you're going to be mildly surprised at where he started and even more surprised at the different experiences he had to take him to where he is today. He's a serial entrepreneur, and he just had a really open mind. Of course, he has a talent to learn, a very, very curious mind, and he connected with the right people at the right time and made the right things happen. This is it's an inspiration to hear from someone that started off almost at a level that's accessible to a lot of people, and then was able to just take everything they learned, everything they're doing, and transform it into something else, driven by their ambition and curiosity. It's a reminder that, you know, you can be the most talented, you can be the smartest in the room, you can have the most experience as far as science is concerned, but that's not necessarily what's going to take you to the entirely new heights. You know, what's going to take you to new heights is wanting to go there and being driven by a curiosity to improve things, to make things better, to solve problems that are presented every day in the world. And Jeff is a living embodiment of that. So I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to say any more. I'm going to let you listen to the interview. As always, we do our best to bring you guests that have insight and innovation and are doing different things to address all the medical needs within the medical sales community. So I really do hope you enjoy part one of this interview. Make sure you tune in next week for part two. Hey, Jeff, how are we doing today?
Doing great, Samuel. Thanks for having me on today. Looking forward to it.
Definitely love having you on the show. So, so who do we have here? Jeff, you know what? Let's jump right into it. I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Excellent. All right. My name is Jeff Smith. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Providence Medical Technology. We're a commercial stage, venture-backed spinal implant business, and we're on a mission to establish circumferential cervical fusion as the standard of care for high-risk patients. I have 4 sons. I coach lacrosse, live in the Bay Area, and in general, just a serial entrepreneur. I've always wanted to start businesses that solve problems. And the last 15 years of my career, all been in healthcare, predominantly in medical device, a couple software businesses. And so, you know, my why for my career is inspiring people's growth so that together we can transform healthcare.
Love it.
Yeah, I love what you're doing at Evolve Your Success, and have been amazed at the results we're seeing within our sales force. So I'm happy to be a part of what you're doing.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about your track and how you got to where you are. So right now you're CEO of Providence. How long have you been CEO of Providence?
I just celebrated my 14th year last week.
14th year. You have put in time. Gosh, I'm sure you have endless stories of growth. But before we get there, let's take it back. You know, one thing that we love to show on the show is, what was the track like? Where did you start from, and what did you experience to get you to where you are today? So let's take it back to college. What were you thinking to do out of college, and what did you end up doing?
Yeah, so I went to Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island, and I was recruited to play lacrosse there, which is how I got in. You know, I got really good grades in high school, but it was a left-handed attackman and was recruited late to Brown, got in. And so when I went to Brown my freshman year, it was really disorienting because it's this Brown is primarily an undergraduate university in that
Sure.
most of the emphasis is on the undergrad. So it's like 6,000 kids, like 1,500 a class, and everyone was as smart or smarter, most people smarter, and everybody had this exceptional thing about them that made them, so great. My thing was lacrosse.
Mm-hmm.
And but even there, everyone was really good at lacrosse. I was just trying to get on the field, trying to
Sure.
travel. And so I realized my freshman year that I was going to have something different if I was going to be successful in my career. I was fortunate to have some sweet dorm suite mates with one buddy, Alan Lee, who was from Taipei. He's like, yo, China is going to take over the world. You should learn Mandarin. It'll be great for whatever you do, banking.
Nice.
So I decided my freshman summer to start studying Mandarin. I
Oh,
spent the
wow.
summer in Taipei.
Okay.
And then my studies were all about, really, there wasn't an entrepreneurship track yet, but it was international relations with
Mm-hmm.
like the commerce track. So my sophomore year, I got an internship at Experian, which is like a data solutions company, which was amazing because I worked for this guy, Eric Haller, who was like one of the first and youngest vice presidents at Visa. He currently runs a huge business for Experian that's all data labs. But he
Mm-hmm.
was a young and up and coming guy. He had me doing research on e-commerce,
Wow.
key theme. And so then my junior year, I did a semester abroad in Hong Kong through
Mm-hmm.
a Yale and China program. And I met some of my best friends in the world right now at this program. And one in particular, Alexander Hack, who lives in London and currently works at Bank of America Merrill Lynch. But he and I just went out and got internships to be investment bankers. It was during the Asian economic crisis where, it was a terrible time to be looking for an internship.
Sure.
There's a guy named Albert Cobello and Kathy Barna at Prudential Asia that I'll never forget. It was like the 15th, 30th floor building we walked into, sweating bullets in Hong Kong. And we said, hey, two Ivy League students, we're just looking to work for free.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy, Albert, was, he was like one of the godfathers of emerging markets fixed income. He's like, wait a second, lock the door. These guys want to work for free. And so at this point, everything was about being a banker.
Sure.
I, was on this team where most of the guys, the seniors that were graduating, would go off to these great Wall Street jobs.
Mm-hmm.
My father had been in banking on the credit card, really consumer banking. And so this was my internship. I did it, loved it, had a Bloomberg terminal.
Wow. Okay.
But I realized that I was like, and this is not to disparage anything with banking, but I was an intermediary. I was like commenting on what other people were doing, and I wanted to be in the game. But it was on that summer or the semester abroad where I met my first co-founder, Jamie Murray,
Mm-hmm.
who is just a wonderful entrepreneur, larger than life personality. Some might know him from the Real World New Orleans.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like 48 subsequent Real World Road Rules challenges.
Oh, wow. All right.
But Jamie had this just gigantic entrepreneurial mindset, and he gave me this book called Losing My Virginity by Richard Branson. I read this thing cover to cover in like 2 days, and I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to just be Richard Branson. So Jamie and I, where Chinese University of Hong Kong is actually in the New Territories of Hong Kong, which is like 30 minutes outside the city.
Okay.
And we would go to this amazing surf break where you'd have to take a boat and a hike. But we couldn't, and this is 1998, we couldn't find a surfboard to buy. So we were like borrowing boards from this Christian missionary. And like, naive, not even 20 somethings, we're like, well, we need to buy surfboards online. The whole world needs to buy surfboards online.
Wait a minute. So did you guys have, were the classes that you were taking, would they facilitate a budding business idea like starting surfboard selling online? Or is this something you were doing outside of school completely?
It's outside of school. Like by day, I was taking 8 hours of Mandarin training.
Wow.
And just like I love language and I can hear things okay. The characters of Mandarin or putonghua are very difficult for me.
Sure.
And then I would go truck off to this internship in my cheap suit, sweating bullets, like the humidity is 200%. But Jamie and I would just, we were BSing, talking about, the internet was happening, right?
Right.
Companies were just starting to go public. And I had done the internship at Experian working for Eric Haller. And I had this 100-page research report, which is not very impressive because at the time people were still learning the trick of copy and paste. Like going to a website, copy, paste it to a Word document. So I was like, wow. But it was all around e-commerce and with specific focus on digital certificates.
Okay.
And anyway, then I did this banking thing and I was just a little underwhelmed. It didn't feel that fun. I wasn't naturally as curious as I would typically be.
So you were doing the banking thing and the surfboard selling was still growing?
Yeah, it was. So the business that my first startup was a business called Soul, SOUL, gear.com, soulgear.com.
Okay. And
the idea for it, so Jamie Murray, my first co-founder, he was part of this group of 5 of us. It was during the Asian economic crisis, which I mentioned because if you had dollars like we did, the Hong Kong government, this was before the handover to the People's Republic of China, they made the choice to peg the Hong Kong dollar to the US dollar.
Got it.
As inflation was going through the roof. So we would go buy sushi at the grocery store is $30. Go get a beer with your buddy and it's $12. And we were broke.
Yeah.
So we needed cash because our parents were pretty clear. They're like, no more. You have a meal plan. So Jamie and I started promoting parties. He was he was studying at Cornell and he was at the hotel school, which is their really famous business management school. And so he knew how to talk to hotels and restaurateurs. Mm-hmm. So I was already wearing a cheap suit. He's a really snappy dresser, better looking guy. And we would pitch these clubs and we'd be like, we're thinking of doing an event. We don't want our guests to have to pay for drinks. So let's negotiate an just a single cover price.
Sure.
And we would get a cut of the door. And then this program, there was kids from all over the United States. There's maybe 100 kids. They would all show up at our parties, unlimited drinks. It was a little out of pocket, but so that's where I started having this anything's possible. Jamie would just walk into a place and it was on a trip we took to Macau, this really cool gambling island where we sat, we'd go to hot tubs and pools at hotels we couldn't afford to stay at.
Right.
And we're we should start an e-commerce business. And we made this bet that extreme sports, which were kind of hitting its stride, going from ESPN X Games to mainstream. And it was we're this is gonna pop. We'll be the vertical for extreme sports online.
Nice.
Let's do this. And so we went back to college. At that point, I was a junior. It was my junior spring. I had fallen on the depth chart for lacrosse because every year there's just better kids coming. And I missed all the fall ball. And really the next 3 semesters of my final 3 semesters at Brown before I graduated were just Soul Gear. We built a website. We built, at the time it was called Community Content and E-commerce.
Yeah.
So you could get a soulgear.com email address for free.
Yeah.
You do message boards, chat rooms.
Oh, wow. You guys were on the cutting edge so early in the game.
One of my classmates who was a year older than me helped us build a content operation with freelance contributors. And so as soon as I graduated, we spent the summer before senior year in Santa Barbara, living at UCSB at rented a room in a fraternity house.
Yeah.
And by the time senior fall hit, we launched our website and we raised, by the end of my senior year, $1 million just from high net worth individuals.
Wow.
But it was great. I'd go to my PO box with my little goofy key, pick up and there'd be $300,000 of.
Wait a minute. So when you say raised, you mean investing into the business or sales from what you were selling through Soul Gear?
That's a great question. You'd think sales, but we didn't ever have much sales. It was just raising money,
Just
money.
people.
Yeah,
Wait a minute. Okay, all right. So the audience has to know. So you're raising all this money. What are the people that are giving you the money expecting to receive in return?
Well, so at this point, every day, 4 or 5 .coms would go public on the NASDAQ.
Gotcha.
It'd go public at $10 a share. It would go to 100.
Gotcha.
The companies had no revenue, massive, losses.
Good old days.
But
Man.
it was basically a land grab to own a vertical.
Sure.
I own baseball. I own art. I own you name it. And it was really, because I love studying this. It was Web 1.0. It was trying to take a newspaper to a magazine. And so I graduate, move out to San Francisco. I literally flew with my stupid hard drive because we didn't have cloud storage. And there was 5 of us. My other co-founder, Will Steedman, who's now living in the Philippines, and he runs a big orthopedic distributorship. We were just trying to build this business, but the problem is people were not yet online. This was now summer of 2000. People were not buying high ticket items online. They were just starting to buy books.
Sure.
And Jeff Bezos, he knew this.
Right.
He's we'll start small, and then we'll just keep improving the customer experience, and people will begin to trust buying things online. For context, Cyber Tuesday, which is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, that was developed in 2000 and 2001. And the funny reason is because people didn't have broadband at home. They'd come to work where they had Wi-Fi. I mean, it wasn't even Wi-Fi. It was just Ethernet.
Right.
And so people would shop, but we were running out of money. We had plans to go public. We had all these bankers.
Wait, stop. How are you running out of money?
We spent money every month, too much, and nothing ever came in.
Okay.
So it's $1 million sounds like a lot of money, but by the time we launched the website, I don't know even how much we had left, but it was never enough.
Okay.
And so the IPO talks that we were having with bankers that were just, we were planning to do this because companies were going public every day.
Yeah.
That stopped. It was the air came out of the IPO bubble.
Wow.
San Francisco, where we had just arrived, it was last call, and we got there.
Right.
We're yeah. Right. Everyone was getting laid off.
Okay.
There's a famous website by Phil Kaplan, who has a bunch of businesses, but Disco Kid is the name of his business. But he had this business called, and excuse my French, but it was called Company. Every day you go to Company, and you see which .com was laying people off. And and people would say they're not even letting us keep our coffee cups. And so everything was falling apart. We were shoot, the music's stopping.
Yeah.
We had one investor front us $100,000 to try to sell the business, basically.
Yeah.
We were talking to MVP.com, which was a collaboration of Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan, and John Elway.
Yeah.
They went out of business. So that was dead. There was one other company called Broadband Sports that we were really thought this was going to be where we'd land because we had this big content operation.
Yeah.
They went out of business. We laid off ourselves. And so where our office was for soulgear.com was, if you know downtown San Francisco, there's a Market Street runs this way and Spear Street's here. We were in the basement, and down maybe a block away, there's a big hotel. I think it's a Hyatt, and they're doing a career fair. And so one of our employees is hey Jeff, I'm going to go to this career fair. Do you want to come? And I was like, shoot, yeah, I do. And I went home and I put on I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt like an idiot. I put on, my suit, and the company that there was this business, AstraZeneca, and they had people lined up, 50 people. Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to go for that. It looked like it was, people wanted to be there. I wait my turn, I get up to the front, and there's a good friend of mine now today still named Jim Cordero, who was the tenured sales rep that was doing interviews at career fair. It's like big developmental opportunity. And he's like, do you have any experience in pharmaceutical sales? And I was like, no, I don't. And he's like, sorry, we're only looking for people with experience. I said, hold on a second, Jim. And I said just enough that he put me forward.
Wow.
I got hired.
Look at that. Okay.
I got a Ford Taurus.
So you started, you know, Jeff, I didn't even know this. You started in pharma? I did not know that. So this was, how long had you graduated? Was this a year or 2 years or later that year? What?
May 2000. I get out to San Francisco, June 2000. Within a year, we were cash out and I was becoming a drug rep. 01.
Wow. From entrepreneur, from .com entrepreneur to drug rep. Okay. All right. Continue.
And, I mean, it was, look, I can laugh about it now. All the best stories. I remind myself this when I'm in the thick of a bad moment. They make for the best stories.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And, but it was really tough. My whole identity had went from being D1 lacrosse player at Brown. .com CEO. To failure. I'm not playing lacrosse anymore. I don't go to an Ivy League school anymore. My business failed, and now who am I?
Gotcha.
And it was really depressing. And then there was the practical matter of money. I needed some money to live.
Right.
So when I got to AstraZeneca, I was over the moon for the opportunity.
Right.
You know, I had a base salary, an incentive plan, a car, car allowance. Like, it was the best deal. I spent a month in a hotel in Chicago learning about cardiovascular medicine.
Okay.
And I mean, when I say a month, I mean, I was there for a month. It was the best training I've ever had.
Right.
And, you know, I ended up selling a beta blocker that had been on the market for 100 years, an angiotensin receptor blocker, which was a relatively new class, but we were like one of 7.
Right.
We were like the good enough version.
Right.
Atacans. But I learned how to ask good probing questions. I learned how to get access.
Gotcha.
I learned about doing a detail of a clinical reprint in a bullet book format. Right. And I did that job for 1 year. And I was a little disenfranchised 6 months in, because I realized, and I in a podcast for Unmet Need that I just recorded, I got caught in the shift of what was the pharmaceutical direct sales force arms race.
Okay.
What had happened in the 90s is there weren't as many pharmaceutical companies.
Right.
When a little one would get big, it would get acquired. And so it was the bigs duking it out. And the way they were winning was the number of sales calls they could, you know, details. They were not really full sales meetings.
Right.
You could deliver per day. So by the time I got to Pharma, it was like literally 2 months after I got in there, there was like a new regulation passed where you couldn't take docs to a ball game. You couldn't go hunting.
The heyday was over.
I missed the .com party. And so all you could do as a drug rep is like put on, it had to involve food.
Yeah. What year was this? Give us some context.
2002.
Okay. All right.
So I look around, and I was hustling like hard. I was trying to be the best pharmaceutical sales rep you could possibly be. We're supposed to do a minimum of 8 sales calls a day.
Okay.
I did 10 or 12.
Sure.
I entered the nerdiest notes, just books of notes. I had this little computer that the surgeon would have, the prescribing physician would have to sign.
Right.
And what the scam was is you'd give it to the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper would take it back, but I'd be like, no, I'm sorry, I need to see the doctor sign it.
I remember those days. I do.
And then just like, I got all my pens. I ordered all my promo stuff.
Right.
And I realized quickly, I was like, you know what? Like, I am busting my hump. And I love my medicines, and I loved I had some amazing relationships, but every time I walk into a clinic, there was a bunch of young people like me in suits and like 3 or 4 patients, and I realized I was in the way.
Sure.
I didn't want to be in the way. I wanted to matter. And I want to be really clear. It matters. Anyone that's a pharmaceutical sales rep now, whether it's their first year, their 30th, it's I think, a very noble profession. It just keeps getting harder though.
Right.
So I saw what's it called? A McKesson rep. He would just like scoot in and out of the cardiology offices. He was wearing scrubs. I was like, whoa, what does this guy do? Like, this seems like a good gig. People.
Yeah, right. You got to turn on something new. Okay.
So that's why I learned about device sales. And then almost 2 years. Oh, this is a funny story too. So after my first year of just going gangbusters, like working my tail off, I sit down with my manager, and I have a lot of empathy now and understanding, because he was the ninth person to relay this message. It wasn't his, but he's like, hey, you did great. We're going to give you a 2% raise, which is going to, it's like 40 grand becomes 41 something. I'm like,
right.
Okay. I had just like won a contest to get a Chrysler Sebring that had leather.
Oh man. Okay.
Which the person I beat out was this really sharp woman that we were like the same age out of college. My manager's like, hey, listen, I know you won this, but I think I'm going to give the Chrysler Sebring to this other rep. And I was like, yo, that's not fair. I won.
Sure.
He's like, are you going to be a team player? I was like, okay, whatever. And he's like, how do you feel about your raise? And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, I don't know. It's not happy, but is this the deal? Like, is it just we're not giving big increases, or could I have done better?
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized, I'm like, this ain't it. This isn't
Gotcha.
it. Yeah. And I want to be clear too. I got that manager, great manager, 3-day field visits, field follow-up letters, great
3-day field visits. Whew. Okay.
Oh, I mean, it was brutal. Like, you're just like, dude, I got nothing else I have nowhere else to take you. I'm done. But anyway, so I get a call from this recruiter for Cardinal Health. And they were basically, as part of their acquisition of what's it called? Allegiance Health, I think. Yeah, they had a device business where they were building a direct sales force for an interventional radiology suite, like call point.
Nice.
A whole bunch of products, biopsy needles for, lung, breast, thyroid, kidney. But they had this one little product for vertebroplasty, which was a way to deliver bone cement into an osteoporotic compression fracture. And it was super fascinating because, like, when I went and did training, and it's interesting, I was competing against a 30 or 25-year veteran of Cardinal Health, tenured rep, great guy, Rick Shemp. He's been an amazing part of my career and a good friend. Makes me think I got to give Rick a call. But we were interviewing head-to-head for this job.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Cardinal, which is a very profitable business, didn't spend a lot of money. They literally had the same car service take us to the airport to fly to Chicago together. We were picked up at the same time. Over the course of a whole day of travel, you quickly realize that's the competition.
Right.
This guy's been with the business. So it ended up, we both got the job. They made 2 territories. And I spent a year at Cardinal Health selling against Kyphon reps.
Wow.
I was selling a $500 disposable instrument set with like $200 bone cement. And there were 7 Kyphon reps against me because I had this big geography. There's like all of Northern California, and they were selling something that cost 10 times as much. And they were like, I was causing them just enough of a problem.
Right.
They offered me a job. And so I did 2 years at Kyphon, which was the most amazing. I went 8 quarters as a spine consultant in the Bay Area. Nice. And then I was going for this regional sales manager job, and my competition was just better. It's a woman that, she was a better salesperson, better manager, more mature.
Okay.
And the VP of sales at the time, another mentor, Brad Paddock, I get this. My manager's like, "Yo, you're not going to get the RSM job." Julie Keller, who's phenomenally talented. So I was crushed. He's like, but Brad wants to meet with you to talk about something. Okay. And at Kaifon, it was like a 300 or 400 person direct sales force.
Sure.
If you were a spine consultant, you reported to one of 50 regional managers. There were 4 area sales directors, 1 VP of sales. So in 2 years, I'd never had a private audience with the big boss.
Right.
And Kaifon was a sales leaning company. Sales, sure. We never missed a number.
Okay.
Ever. Mm-hmm. So basically, there was the director of sales operations, who was the right hand of the VP of sales, had accepted a job to be like a GM in Europe, a guy named Ben Murdoch, really talented. And Brad was asking me, do I want to be the sales ops guy? Mm-hmm. I was like, wow, I got my own office in Sunnyvale, California.
Nice.
I was working for Brad, and I was going to be involved in everything. Dream come true. I took my comp, because Kaifon, it was a good time to be selling. I was doing pretty well. I took a 50% pay cut. I lost my car allowance. I lost my gas card. I had an hour and 20-minute commute both ways.
Wow.
My wife and I just bought a lot of house. We now had 2 or 3 kids, just two kids at the time. And I was like, yeah, this is great. And it ended up, it was, for me, it was a pattern. I took a step back financially, but I got to go inside and see how the business worked.
And that was part 1 with Jeff Smith. Pretty interesting stuff, right? He started off with, a huge opportunity. and to do that out of college, or while he was still in college. But what's cool about that experience is, he's Ivy League. He gets an opportunity that's probably afforded to a lot of Ivy Leaguers. But then there's a reset, and he has to bring it all down to a foundational level and re-enter the marketplace, re-enter working that a lot of people, almost anyone with a college degree, has access to. And then after he started to perform in that space, then different things started to happen. And, he took things to entirely new heights. It just reiterates that point that I made at the very beginning of this episode, which is, if you got that ambition, the drive, and you're curious, and you're really trying to solve problems out there, amazing things can happen. You're set up to walk into amazing opportunities. So some of you might be listening to this, and you might be someone that's trying to get into the industry. You're hearing this and you're saying, wait a minute, man, he started there. That's exactly something I want to do now. I would say stop pondering, stop wondering, stop thinking about it. And if you're ready to do something about it, then you need to visit evolveyoursuccess.com. Follow the prompts, attain a medical sales role, fill out our application, and have a conversation to get an opportunity to finally get into the position you've been dreaming about, the position you've been listening to all these podcasts about, that position that you can do that will completely change your life. We have a program that's waiting for you to jump into that can literally change your life. Again, stop thinking about it and let's start doing about it. Visit evolveyoursuccess.com and select attain a medical sales role. And if you're a sales representative out there, regardless of the industry you're in, whether it be medical device or pharmaceutical or biotech or diagnostic or even dental, and you want this to be your year, we're only in June. There are still over 6 months to make something happen and completely change your trajectory. Maybe it's President's Club. Maybe it's promotion to management. Maybe it's setting yourself up to take advantage of a bigger opportunity. You're trying to make something happen and you're ready to finally do something different about it. Then again, visit evolveyoursuccess.com, select improve sales performance, schedule some time, and again, have a conversation with us here at Evolve Your Success. We do everything we can to create opportunities for people that want to be in medical sales and for people that are in medical sales. And we do everything we can to bring you information and insight through our podcast here at the Medical Sales Podcast. So make sure you tune in next week for the second part of this interview with Jeff Smith. And make sure you keep listening to the Medical Sales Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a couple programs that show you exactly how to break into the medical sales industry, become a top-performing medical sales professional, and also how to masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolveyoursuccess.com. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews.